completely ripped the roof off of the warehouse, that tornado. You see how the roof looks a little bit newer? And so there were about 100 barrels that were exposed to that were exposed to the elements, the rain, the tornado, and everything like that. We took those 100 barrels down, and they tasted really, really good. So we put them in their own bottle, and we sold it for like $70. Or formerly known as Robinson's Day. Once they cooper the barrel, I should say they're going to take these, they're going to cut it down to planks, like you see these planks here. They need to steam it into shape that we see here. We call this a stave. 32 of these staves make up a barrel. And then the most important part of making the barrel, once it's all been coopered, we need to char. Individually in a big copper tank, we're going to add water to it to proof it down. The blends that you would buy like in the gift shop that we were selling you today would be 93 proof. However, other blends, like the one you see here, the blend special reserve,
look around, you'll see some of the artifacts that were found during the renovation. You'll see several different pieces of wallpaper. Those were one on top of the other. They just kind of accumulated over the years. Something else I want to point out. I'm sure you noticed that there's 2 doors on this building. Recipe, grain recipe. So it is a bottled and bond product. So bottled and bond was something that our focus of this tour was played a big role in. Well, I'm sure without him it would have never happened. Single barrel. So it was introduced in 2013. It's been aged for over 9 years. Asheville 1 again, which is the corn rye, malted barley, high corn, low rye. What is it? Okay, well, it's single barrel. All right, so the first product that you had was actually a batch product, meaning that several barrels were selected. Those barrels were all emptied together, and they were processed together, and they were bottled together. So what was in the bottle that we poured out of had
unforgettable of appearance. It represents the then knowledge of the modes of whiskey manufacture. But I quickly needed to modernize, so I knocked the original building down to its foundation and built on top of it the handsomest and best structure for the purposes to be found anywhere in the country. Sadly, Mother Nature dealt a terrible blow, and my beautiful distillery was struck by lightning and destroyed by fire in 1882. Within a year, from the ashes of the gutted distillery, rose the building you stand in today. It was without rival in the beauty of its design and the completeness of its appointments and the adaptiveness of every feature for the manufacture of a perfect whiskey. Not a cent of expenditure was withheld. It is, of all distilleries, unquestionably the most costly in the world. Water from the limestone spring at the river's edge just below this room has made this site perfect for whiskey making since my great-great-grandfather's time. Above your heads, I built the finest mill room in Nashville. You'll be having lavish parties up there soon, of which I highly approve. You can see how industrious we all were those days. It was indeed handmade, hand-stirred, first-rate sour mash. My pristine fermenting room gleams with copper pipes and trolleys. The beer ferments in copper-lined vats, which is then piped to the copper stills, creating my genuine old fire copper whiskey, OFC, aged to perfection and first class in every particular. A whiskey without rival throughout the world. George T. Stagg and I modernized whiskey making in our days. Those who followed us survived Prohibition, expanded the distillery, covered the vats of this building in concrete, started a single barrel bourbon revolution, and eventually computerized the place. And now they've uncovered my long forgotten old fermenting vats. Next, they're probably going to try to make whiskey my way. Well, that's not surprising. Everything I've ever touched was of topmost class, and my stories were always the most complete and perfect in barrel.
The gentleman that was narrating that was E.H. Taylor's great-great-grandson. He actually just passed away last year. I think that's pretty cool. Distillery. So it's the one that Colonel Taylor bought in 1869. The one that he would go on to tear down in 1873. So in that picture, the corner of the foundation or the corner of the building has been circled. And what you see in that corner is a door. This is the doorway right here. So this is part of the foundation. There was a door right here, and that's what's circled in the picture. 73 version of OFC. Now, it does not come as far as the original Leestown distillery, but it went way further that way. So it was much larger. It also sets back because it had a dock between it and the river, where they could offload whiskey, and you can see that in the picture as well, where they could offload barrels of whiskey and receive any supplies that they needed right from the river. All right, so this is Colonel Taylor on the wall, the man of the legend. Had a bearded light. This is not life size; it's actually a little smaller in stature than this. But he certainly carried himself like he was somebody that was big, no doubt about it. But the thing I like to talk about right now is, so he wasn't an inventor, but he was an innovator.